Hey folks, Tamron have been killing it in the last couple of years with their Generation 2 of f2.8 zooms. The 70-200 has proven to be a real competitor to the Canon and Nikon offerings at a much better price point. Now they've released the 70-210 f4, so it's an interesting kind of comparison to do now. This guy's even cheaper, you can see it's much smaller, but what are we getting in terms of value between the two? Obviously it's f4, so it's a stop slower, it's a couple of $100 cheaper, but how does the image quality stack up to the big guy? Today we're going to check it out. Before we jump into it, jump on over to mattgranger.com, sign up to my mailing list, and I'll send you out a free copy of my guide to improving your portraiture. And make sure you're following along on Instagram. We often live stream photo shoots there, and that's where we do all of our giveaways. So today we're going to test this out in a couple of different ways. First, we're going to do a studio shoot here with Steph, and maybe we'll be able to wrangle in one of the cats as well to do a real image quality test where we've got full control of the light and go through a bunch of different apertures to show you the kind of sharpness and contrast that we're getting from the two lenses side by side on the Nikon D850. Then we're actually going to go outside and do a couple of different tests out there. I'm really interested to see how the focusing does between the two of them. So I'm going to have Steph run around like a crazy person and see which one is able to keep up with her best. And then we'll do some other image quality tests to see how's the sharpness, fall off, vignetting, contrast, bokeh, all of those things with the backdrop, say, of Manhattan. Before that, let's just compare these two in terms of specs. So the 70-210 is 1.87 pounds or 850 grams, comparing that to the 70-200, which is 3.3 pounds or 1.5 kilos. So getting close to double the weight. In terms of front elements, the new guy is 67mm compared to 77 on the 70-200. The 70-200 comes with a tripod collar with the Arca Swiss foot built in, really handy, whereas the 70-210 doesn't. I'm guessing at the lower weight, it's less of an issue having all of the weight on your camera body. It's noticeably narrower and shorter in terms of overall design, and that's going to make shooting with it all day a lot easier. Both feature 9 rounded aperture blades, and both have fluorine front element coating, which is great for shooting in inclement weather. On that point, the new guy says that it is moisture resistant construction. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it's not as strongly worded as a 70-200, which says it's a sealed, dust and moisture resistant design. So I'm thinking that means the 70-200 is more weather sealed than the 70-210. Beyond the fluorine front element coating, the 70-200 also has a more complex glass. It has 1 XLD extra low dispersion and 5 LD low dispersion elements, which are there to limit color fringing and chromatic aberrations. It also has E-band and B-bar, not Justin, coatings to suppress ghosting and flare for improved performance in contrasty or backlit situations. In terms of VC, the 70-210 is claiming 4 stops of vibration compensation, whereas the 70-200 they advertise 5, and you'll note that the 70-210 has only VC on or off, whereas the 2.8 variant has 3 different modes depending on the kind of shooting you're doing. That's enough on the specs. Let's see how they perform in studio. So this is an unexpected test. You know, whilst a lot of cameras advertise 200mm or whatever, at their long end, they may not actually be that. So it'll be interesting to see if we realize the extra 10mm in practice. Because for headshots, often once you get in close and you're focusing close to the closest focus distance, they just don't give that to you. But interestingly, it looks like the 70-210 is getting in significantly closer at up close. So I think it may even have more than 10mm advantage over the 200 in these situations. Okay, thank you, darling, but I'm gonna go back to Steph now. You've seen how Petter is lately. If I'm shooting with cats, they're gonna sue me, and I haven't got you signed up as your official agent yet. So in this kind of situation, neither of them are having any trouble at all to focus. Interesting thing shooting with Tyson before that came up was the reproduction ratio at about 1.1 meters. I was getting a lot closer with the 70 to 210. So let's see right in, they both focus down to 0.95. So given that, it should mean that the other one just gets 10% closer, because 210 mil versus 200 mil, 0.95 meters on each one, and see what the reproduction ratio really is. Ooh, this is close. I need to actually take a photo. So here is the 70 to 200 2.8 at its maximum focal length, 200 mil, at its closest focus of 0.95 meters. And you can see it's getting extremely close. That's a great reproduction ratio. Here with the 70 to 210 at its closest focus at 210 mil, it's way closer. I'm actually quite surprised. Okay, to compare image quality, I'm going to do a series of shots from 2.8, f4, f5.6 on this guy. Obviously I can't do the 2.8 on the f4 lens, and recreate the frame, and then I'll give you the actual files so you can download them and check them out for yourself. Look, there is a small amount of variation between these two. I do think we're getting a little bit more detail from the 70 to 200 2.8, but both completely usable. Still, YouTube is going to compress this beyond all comprehension, so jump on over to the link on screen and you can download the files to check them out for yourself. Let's just get those freaking dimples. Give me a bigger smile. Oh, they're ridiculous. Oh my God. Next up, let's head out to the park and see how it does with blurring out the background when we're not so close in a studio situation, and also have her run around like a crazy person to see how they're able to track her. Okay, we're good?
Actually, yeah. Imagine you need to take on your hat. Oh.
Do I have hat hair? I'll go hip hop.
Yeah, that works.
Hey, okay. All right, folks, so we're out in the park now. First up, I want to do a focus test. So I'm going to do 3 different things here to see how they track her. It's a bright sunny day. Both of these lenses do fine, so there's no point doing a static test. So first, I'm going to have her do a slalom in and out of those trees. It's actually should be quite a tricky challenge because she'll be moving in and out of light and shadow as well. So that's as much a test of the camera as it is the lens, but they do work in tandem. So we'll see how the two of them do. Second one, I'm gonna have her do a running jump off a ledge and see how it tracks her in the air. And then thirdly, I'm just gonna have her run straight at me as fast as she can, and we'll see how it tracks with that coming closer and closer towards her. And at the end, see if there was any noticeable difference between the two. Are you warmed up?
Sure.
Let's do this. So I'm going to shoot both of these at f4 at the longest focal length. So 200 on this, 210 on the f4 lens. Both at f4 though, so then they've got the same chance of getting, things caught even if they're slightly out of focus. But of course this has an advantage because it has the full f2.8 to focus with. Now, because she's going to be running in and out of trees here, I'm going to make an adjustment to my autofocus tracking. I'm going to have the block response be on slightly towards delayed. So if she's behind the tree, it doesn't jump off her. And I'm moving the subject motion to erratic. So that should give us the best chance of staying with her as she goes in and out of the trees. On your marks, get set, go. Now, how did it do? Okay, it's done surprisingly well, in and out of shadow and whatnot. Not 100%, but towards camera in those conditions, I think that's pretty good. You got one more in you?
Sure.
Just love working with fit people. I can just stand here in the sun while she runs back and forward. Okay, 210, f4, otherwise same settings. On your marks, get set, go. Here the 70 to 210 is doing a pretty good job of keeping with her. As I said, this is a really difficult test. It's not perfect though, as she's going behind the trees. It did miss her a couple of times. Close to about the same as the 70 to 200, but maybe just not quite as good. Nice, let's do some jumps.
There you go.
Wow, you're fired. Now, something that every photographer needs in their arsenal is a lens that's going to let you capture someone do a running stupid jump in the air. Every superhero has this in their arsenal, so every photographer needs a suitable lens. Same settings, but this time we're at 70mm f4. I'm going to track her and see what kind of stupid face she can pull in midair. There you go, and how they track her. So when you're ready, you go. Well, if this were a stupid face competition, I got to stay with you to the landing. Yeah, when you're ready. So look, this is obviously a bit of stupidity, but it is a more realistic tracking test. No, she doesn't need to be jumping, but this is the kind of tracking you're more likely to be doing. Movement, up, down, left, right, closer to camera, but without that in and out of the shadow, which is really difficult for a camera to track because it's looking at contrast points. So here, it seemed to me that both the lenses are doing extremely well. I couldn't really notice a difference between the two of them. The last one, and again this is to do with your camera as much as the lens, I'm going to have her run straight at me and see how well they're able to pull focus, especially at those last moments where she's coming relatively so fast. Is it able to keep shifting its focus to keep her sharp? Okay, so 210 mil. 3, 2, 1, go! Okay, so up really close, no, the last couple weren't pin sharp in focus, but she was running pretty fast. But further away, it was really keeping up nicely. So let's do the 70 to 200. Oh, now I need to verify this on the computer to be sure, but to me that seemed in a straight line that this was doing better at keeping with her perfectly. So just getting a bunch of options here to show what kind of bockerage we get. Hold that side on. So this first one is a 70 to 200 wide open at f2.8. You can see a beautiful soft background. When we stop that down to f4, it loses a little bit, but it's actually becoming sharper in the sharp areas. And then here with the 70 to 210 also at f4, you can see it looks just as good as the 70 to 200. We just don't have the option to open it up to 2.8.
Clap up.
Oh, that was close.
Protect the gimbal.
Okay, so our last shoot with the trees and the greenery in the background gave you a good sense of that kind of diffuse, blown out bokeh. Here, something a little bit different. It's funny, you moved to the water in Brooklyn to pay through your nose for a view of Manhattan, and now let's see how well we're able to blow it out and make it nice and soft. So I'll use both lenses again, wide open, and see what we can do in terms of softening that background. Here we go, the 70 to 200 at 70mm, and then at 200mm, and then with the 70 to 210 wide and long. You can check them all out at the link in the description below. Ah!
You wanted to get the shot?
This is why they come with hoods. Come here, buddy. Ah!
Don't do that!
Always stealing my limelight. Okay folks, time to boil it down to which of these lenses is best for you. Which one should you buy if you're comparing the 70 to 200 2.8 or the 70 to 210 f4. Now, let's get the practical things out of the way. I think both of them are performing really well. I think you'd be happy with either of them in terms of performance. A big thing is going to come down to size, weight, and price. I think for a lot of people that's going to be a determining factor. The price is significant, especially up front, but I actually think the size and weight is going to be more of an issue moving forward, because carrying this around with you on a long day of hiking or shooting in the field is a different proposition to this. It's going to be a lot less backbreaking, for want of a better word. I know from personal experience of having led tours around the world that often people bring tripods or heavier lenses and don't use them as much because they don't want to have them in their bag all day. So in that regard, this is a great option. However, having the foot with the Arca Swiss mount built into it is great. On this one, you would need to actually buy that extra. A big issue is going to be the actual image quality. So let's jump in and take a look at some shots side by side. So first of all, let's take a look at the shots of Steph in studio. Now here at f8, f5.6, in that kind of range, both of them are really performing beautifully well. Zooming right in, I mean, they're just so crazy detailed. I really don't think anyone's going to have an issue with either of them. If I was really splitting hairs, and I mean I literally am, because I'm looking at hairs at 1:1 magnification, which no one in the real world actually does, then I think there is an edge to the 70-200 over the f4, but it's slight. Taking a look at these shots of the kittens at a shallower depth of field, then yes, I can see, again, probably a slight edge to the f2.8, but in the real world, I don't think it's going to make any kind of a practical difference. In terms of the focusing capabilities, I did find a slight edge to the 70-200. Again, both perfectly fine, but when it was getting closer to the subject, you know, when Steph was running straight at me, I did find out of a burst of say 30 or 40, maybe I was getting 1 or 2 more perfectly in focus. It seemed to be able to focus that much quicker up close, and you'll probably find that in low light situations as well. This will give you an advantage because it's giving you double the light to focus with, which helps the camera in any case. Now, in terms of getting closer to the camera, if your closest focus distance and your maximum reproduction ratio are important to you, whilst these both say they get down to 0.95, I was blown away with the reproduction ratio on the 70-210. I actually redid the test several times because I thought maybe I was doing something wrong, because I know that the 70-200 already performs quite well in that regard, but this was just getting so close. I actually redid it with the brand new Nikkor 70-200, which is more than double the price of this guy, of the 70-200. And taking a look here, this is the 70-200 at its closest focus, as close as I was able to at 200 mil. And then this is the 210, zoomed into 210 at its closest focus. Gets you in so much closer. It's really overwhelming. So if that's a factor for you, then the 70-210 is really hard to beat in this kind of a focal length range. At the end of the day, it's going to be a personal choice. I can't just give you a blanket, this is the lens that you should buy. But I would say for most people, the 70-210 is going to be a better option. It's a slightly better focal range, you know, slightly longer. It lets you focus in significantly closer. The VC is great. The image quality is great. The focus performance is good. The build quality is really good as well. And the price is, you know, cheaper again, and it's that much lighter and smaller. If you want the maximum aperture, you want the extra VC modes, you want the slightly better focus, then yes, this is still a great value lens. If you're comparing it to the Nikon Canon variants, you're just getting a much better deal in terms of bang per buck. Thank you for that, kittens. You just have to be willing, like with the other brand name lenses, to do the size and weight trade-off that you don't have to make with the 70-210. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you looking at either of these? Which one do you think is going to suit your needs? Let me know in a comment, and I'll see you soon. Kitten, don't do that.